welcome into First Take Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman. How we doing, gentlemen?
Everything all right? You good? You good?
All good, all good. As Stephen A. just mentioned, the time is now, people. The First Take, Your Take viewer contest is here. You can win a chance to debate Stephen A. and Max right here on national television. So here's how it's going to work. We'll pick two winners and fly you to ESPN headquarters in Bristol, Connecticut. All you have to do is go to firstTakeYourTake.com. Be sure to read and follow all the rules for your chance to win. Then upload a 1-minute video with your best original sports debate. Please keep it clean. Plus, no music, team logos, trademarks, or copyrighted material. We just want you to be yourself on camera, impress us, shine. Winners will be announced November 23rd by our show staff. So get busy. We could see you guys right here at the debate desk debating these two.
I also want to emphasize what they need to do is also while you're doing this, you're watching. I don't want a debate. I don't want to hear a debate from a month ago or 2 months ago or whatever. Watch the show. And while you're watching the show that day, sending your video, be ready to go. It has to be fresh. And I will be watching and I will be judging because a whole bunch of people out there chirping all the damn time. And usually folks in opposition don't give folks an opportunity to come and debate. You want to be in the hot seat. This is something that, you know me, I've been talking about this all summer long. Finally, it's official and it's happening. I would like to say I can't wait. I know people out there feel that way. Ahead of time, my condolences to what's going to happen to the winner that has to end up here. My condolences.
I see what's happening here.
What?
You see, before Muhammad Ali came around, everyone was scared of Sonny Liston or George Foreman. Just because I make it look easy, it's not going to be easy for you. He's hard to debate. Yes, I know you see me do it, so you think his aura of invincibility has been stripped. But the man is an excellent debater. That's all I'm telling you. And me, I know you don't have any shot against me.
What if you get
you know that already. You just figured
TV?
Maybe I could beat Stephen A.
What if someone just comes out here and owns you right on national TV?
That is impossible.
Really?
It's impossible.
He says it's impossible.
There's nobody that's going to come on First Take and school me. First of all, I'm still waiting for him to win a debate. There's nobody that's going to come on national TV and school me. Listen, we're going to take, listen, I mean, listen, so many people. I mean, even on my Facebook page, I had over 1 million people reach out, talk about when does this start? When does this start? Literally over 1 million people. I'm telling you right now, there is nobody, I repeat, nobody that's going to come on national TV and sit up here and smoke me. I promise you that.
Imagine
I'm not
headline.
even concerned.
I have faith in you all.
I'm not even concerned.
But before we get to our first topic, again, I want to say thank you for this idea, Stephen A. This is great, and it's going to be awesome for
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. So many people talking.
I can't wait to meet these people.
Going to have a male and a female winner. We're going to
love it.
Let's do it.
Public humiliation. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be good.
Well, they brought it on themselves. They brought it on themselves.
Well, here's a topic they can potentially debate, right? So let's get into our first one. We begin with America's team and one of America's favorites. Brett Favre was asked on his weekly SiriusXM NFL radio show, if you were Tony Romo, how would you handle getting your job back?
I tried to put myself, say, in Tony's shoes. I'm sure Tony wants to play. I mean, he doesn't want to get injured. He wants to be productive. But you have to look at the dynamics right now, and they really are hitting on all cylinders. So this is hypothetically thinking. If you're Tony, you say, you know what? As much as I want to play, I don't want to press the issue. I want to play, but I'm going to let it play out right now. And it's probably better if Dak starts struggling and then they bring me in, rather than they put me in, and then all of a sudden we're not hitting on all cylinders, and everyone's like, they should have got rid of Tony, blah, blah. I mean, if I'm making sense. So I'm not saying that you tell Garrett or Jerry Jones, look, I don't want to play. I think you want to play, but look, I don't want to mess up the dynamics of the team. If we get to a point where we're struggling, then it's time for me to come in. Now, that's a hard thing to do. I just think you're better if you wait till you're really needed. And I mean, no disrespect whatsoever to Tony.
Stephen A., how do you feel about it?
I think Brett Favre is a flaming hypocrite for saying what he said. That's right, I said it. I mean, can you believe the stuff coming out of his mouth, of all people? This is the same guy that in 2008, after hinting towards retirement, couldn't make up his mind several times, ultimately retired in March of 2008, then decides to come back in August and disrupt everything that the Green Bay Packers were trying to do before they handed it. Ted Thompson, Mike McCarthy handled it adroitly and ultimately shipped him to the New York Jets, which, by the way, led them to a 9-7 record, but threw 22 interceptions catches that season, leading the league. This is the same Brett Favre that did not really want to sit up there and work with Aaron Rodgers. This is the same Brett Favre that had a guy in Aaron Rodgers sitting behind him for 3 years, did virtually nothing to help him, while literally fluctuating between making up his mind, not making up his mind as to whether or not he would retire. And you have the audacity, the unmitigated gall to sit up here and call out, the Dallas Cowboys. Well, if you're Tony Romo, you might want to wait. If you're Tony Romo, you know what? You're going to sit there. It's better for you to sit on the sidelines and wait and hope that this dude messes up, so then you could come in and save the day, as opposed to saying it's my job. I was just injured, but I'm back and I'm ready to go right now, and I want to disrupt chemistry. Who, in terms of quarterbacks, star quarterbacks, guys who were counted upon to produce, who disrupted chemistry more than Brett Favre? I want to know who. I'm quite sure he's a nice guy. The Wrangler jeans commercials certainly confirm that, because he makes sure to come across as a nice guy, and they make sure to let him come across as a nice guy. ESPN, obviously, without Walt Disney, says we love Brett Favre. I mean, did you see? I can't tell you how many times, Max. I can't tell you how many times. And it's very little that I say. I mean, the Chris Bermans of the world, the Tom Jacksons of the world, I call them the institution, and all of these other guys. There is very little that I ever say to disagree with the institutions and everybody else. But I swear to you, I can't tell you how many times I wanted to throw up watching people at this network sit there and fawn over Brett Favre. Oh, look at him fall down and throw the ball underhanded. Oh, look at him jump into the arms of his offensive lineman.
Drawing up plays in the dirt.
He's drawing up plays in the dirt. He's like a little kid. The kid in him, it never left. He loves the game so much. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, please. The guy was disruptive. The guy could not make up his mind. The guy wasn't the ultimate teammate in terms of helping his teammate get better. The guy was about himself in the latter part of his career, and the fact of the matter is, for him to sit up there and to say this about Tony Romo, oh my Lord, what nerve, you of all people. I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. I'm sorry, I ain't trying to hear that from Brett Favre. No.
Well, you're going to hear it. You see, hypocrisy is the tribute that vice pays virtue. Think about that one. You have to rewind it and think about it.
I do. I have to rewind it and think about it.
Hypocrisy is the tribute that vice pays virtue. In other words, you know at some level this is the right thing to do. Yep. So vice, the thing that you're doing wrong, has to pay tribute to the thing that knows it's supposed to be doing right. Was Brett Favre selfish in many respects in precisely the way that you described? Absolutely. Okay. So it seems as though he's being hypocritical here. However, Stephen A. Smith, in fact, what's happening is you're being hypocritical. And in your case, it's not even about vice paying virtue a tribute. It's simply, I have to imagine, the blunt force trauma of having to go 15 rounds with Mohamed Kellerman every day on this show.
Mohamed
That's what it's got to be.
You didn't go there.
Let's get this straight.
Go ahead.
Let's get this straight.
Kellerman. You must be crazy. Go ahead.
Go. If you're Cosell, I'm someone.
Oh, you know.
Let's get this straight. You have been sitting here telling me for weeks and weeks and months now that Tony Romo is overrated, essentially. That Tony Romo is being spoken about like he's this legendary player, but in fact, he's not as good as people think. Now, you and I disagree. I think he's an excellent quarterback. I guess you think he's something less than that. Or certainly you said he's overrated at times. What makes you think that Brett Favre, from where he's sitting, doesn't have the right to criticize Tony Romo? Brett Favre talking about Romo is not Brett Favre talking about Peyton or Brady or someone like that, according to you. So Brett Favre, who had never had an injury history, he was the all-time and remains the all-time Iron Man in the NFL. And even if I also think Favre was overrated in certain respects, he's certainly one of the 10 greatest quarterbacks who ever lived. I don't think anyone disputes that.
So what's your problem?
Well, you're acting as though Favre can't say this about Romo because Favre behaved a certain way.
Yes.
Romo ain't Brett Favre.
No, I agree with that.
Well, it's not the same thing then.
No, what I'm saying to you is that if you're still playing, don't get me wrong. I understand in theory if you put it that way, I get where you're coming from. My point to you is that Brett Favre is not preaching what he practiced. Brett Favre was an entirely different person. Brett Favre wasn't the kind of guy that would do what he's asking Tony Romo to do. And I'm not saying he's not saying that because it's Tony Romo. He's saying it because he is saying and from a football perspective, this is how you're supposed to handle such situations. That's what he's saying. And I'm saying the nerve of him to say such a thing. I got a problem with him saying that because that wasn't the Brett Favre that I knew in the latter part of his career.
Me too, because Aaron Rodgers better than Brett Favre ever was, and that's right, I said that. But Favre can be forgiven for thinking that guy, what are the odds that guy winds up as good as me? That's not the same thing as Romo for Dak. Dak might wind up better than Romo ever was, and right now is playing at a Romo kind of level.
But listen, what I'm saying to you is that Brett Favre is sitting back saying, you know what, if I'm Tony Romo, I just wait. I don't disrupt the situation. When Brett Favre had no problem disrupting anything.
If he's Tony Romo, because Romo is operating on a certain level.
But he's not saying it because it's Romo. He's saying it because in the NFL, with the Dallas Cowboys in this particular situation, this is how that situation is. This is how it looks. And this is how you're supposed to conduct yourself. That is what he is saying.
Yes,
and I'm saying the nerve of him.
And he's being hypocritical, and so are you, because you're treating Romo as though he's elevated above how you usually put him.
No, I'm focusing on Brett Favre. I ain't even thinking about Romo.
Okay.
I'm just thinking about the words that came out of Brett Favre's
So
mouth.
Favre was talking about a lesser quarterback than Romo. That would still be wrong?
I'm saying yes, because I'm thinking about Brett Favre and how it's not consistent with how he himself
If he was talking about Brock Osweiler, would that be okay or no?
Did I not speak English? I said it don't matter who it is.
Of course it matters who it is.
Brett Favre coming out of his mouth and saying what he said, knowing how he conducted himself. What? Yes, dear.
Couldn't you say that he's arguing that he's actually defending Romo here? And he's saying, just let it play out. Dak's going to mess up. He's going to start throwing interceptions. Then you come in and be the hero. That's how you play it. And he actually has his back.
No, you can say that. I don't look at it that way. For me, I don't look at it that way. I look at him trying to come across, as the diva that he is, talking about this is the way things are supposed to be, like he's somebody that practices it. Brett Favre was a relatively polarizing figure in the latter part. He had a great year in Minnesota when they went to the NFC Championship game with the whole Bounty Gates fiasco. He had a great year that year, but the bottom line is 2 of the last 3 years with the Jets, and then obviously that last year in Minnesota, clearly it wasn't his greatest years. All I'm saying is Brett Favre was a relative distraction because Brett Favre couldn't make up his mind half the time over the last 5 years whether he was going to play or whether he was going to retire. And at the quarterback position, how could you hold a franchise hostage like that?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely, Brett Favre did that. But I have an answer for you in terms of what Favre is saying. I think Favre is actually telling on himself. Favre is saying that this is how you scheme. If you want that job back, this is what I would do. I would play it cool.
That's how I was kind of
And then when the other guy starts to mess up, hey, I'm here. In fact, he's telling on himself in terms of his selfish tendencies. You can analyze it that way.
Work the system.
I don't mind that element. I don't mind that perspective. That falls in line. That falls in. No, I'm talking about in terms of his selfishness. That falls in line with what I think about Brett Favre, a guy that's passed for over 71,838 yards in his career. But you know what? I'm looking at his interceptions. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, his 336 interceptions on his resume. I know he's one of the all-time great quarterbacks. He was a gunslinger. He was also risque. He led the league in interceptions a couple of times. I just look at Brett Favre and I'm like, the quarterback position, everything that we say that you're supposed to be about as a professional. We didn't hold Brett Favre accountable to that. We had a media fawning over everything he did to the point. I mean, I think if Brett Favre pulled out a box of cereal, folks would have went and got the damn milk for him. That's how bad it was. At this network too. Here, not just the NFL, not just the other networks. Here,
absolutely.
I mean, I'm talking about people walking around waving their Brett Favre pom-poms. It was embarrassing. By
the way, considering also this, you have to now reconsider what Favre said. Majkowski, the guy he took the job from, lost it to an injury. He twisted his ankle. In fact, I just saw Favre's first game because Jim Lampley actually called that game with Ahmad Rashad, and they played it. They re-aired it a couple of years ago. It's like, oh, Lampley's calling the game, and Favre is doing these incredible things. But Favre, once he took the job, Majkowski got Wally pipped. He never got back the job because Favre was the all-time Iron Man.
Yeah.
Well, what if Dak doesn't miss games? What if Dak doesn't play bad? That's the end of Tony Romo.
Gotcha.
We will leave it there. Lil Wayne's going to join us later. He's a Packers fan. Curious to hear what he has to say about that subject and this next one. A big week for Colin Kaepernick. Not only is he getting the starting job back this weekend in Buffalo, but he also restructured his deal yesterday. Cap's deal wipes out the last 4 years on the contracts and turns it into a 2-year deal with a player option for year 2, according to Adam Kaplan and Adam Schefter. Now, if Kaepernick doesn't void this deal after the season, his contract terms for 2017 are the same. $16.5 million salary. but no guaranteed money. Max, was this the Niners' plan all along?
No. Now, that's different than asking, were they going to make him the starting quarterback without restructuring the contract? No, they also weren't going to do that. But that doesn't mean this was their plan all along. They were fortunate, in a sense, that before they were going to let Kaepernick on the field, he had to be in shape to play. And it's not like we're making this up. He had played poorly and then showed up and something was wrong with his arm. And you could even see from his frame he had lost a ton of muscle mass. I mean, a ton of muscle mass. He went from a jacked up dude in short shirt sleeves to like a skinny dude. Didn't look like the same guy, right? I mean, let's just say what it is. So that's what they were dealing with. And fortunately for the franchise, for the Niners, they had the luxury of waiting until Kaepernick's arm felt better, dead arm, shoulder, whatever it was, and until he started putting back on the muscle mass. In other words, until he was really ready to play quarterback again. They had the luxury of waiting and negotiating with him behind the scenes. They were not going to let him on without restructuring the deal. The NFLPA should look into this, in my opinion. But that's not the same thing as saying this is their plan all along. You know, they were holding him out. They weren't holding him out. There's a difference.
You're so wrong about this, but why am I surprised? Here's the deal, Max Kellerman. So let me get this straight. Chip Kelly, who came from Philadelphia, who's known for being a control freak, wanting things his way, knowing what people are eating, knowing what time they're sleeping, knowing who they got visiting their house at 11 o'clock at night, that kind of stuff. That Chip Kelly, that same Chip Kelly is coaching Colin Kaepernick, who wants to be traded. Doesn't affect or impact Chip Kelly at all. It's no big deal. Sure, right? Sure. That's according to you. Trent Baalke, GM for the 49ers. This is a team, Jim Harbaugh's first year, they went 13-3, went to the NFC Championship game. Second year went 11-4-1, went to the Super Bowl, lost the Super Bowl. Third year went 12-4, went for the conference championship game again, and where they lost that game. 3 years in a row in the conference championship. What does Trent Baalke do? Because things are not exactly his way. He sits up there and ultimately, you know, railroads Jim Harbaugh out of San Francisco, basically decimates the franchise because you ruined the 2014 season where they went 8-8. And ever since then, after that, by the way, you follow up Jim Harbaugh with Jim Tom Sula. Okay, whoever the hell that was, okay? And then after you go that route, Chip Kelly gets exiled. They're so disgusted with him in Philadelphia, okay? There was their media campaign led by my man Angelo Cataldi and others that wanted him out of town. He gets fired. Jeffrey Lurie, you got to remember, I'm in Philadelphia 17 years, covered this team, know Jeffrey Lurie, good man. This dude fires you. Doesn't even wait until the season's over. It's 1 week left in the regular season, and he still fired you. He didn't even wait for another week. He got rid of you right then. You became ineligible for the playoffs. He didn't even wait 1 more week until the season ended. He said, you got to go now, okay? So all of this happened to Chip Kelly, and 3 weeks later, he gets hired by this organization at $6 million per. You look at the dysfunctionality that exists within the 49ers franchise, the kind of stuff that they engage in just to get the people that they want and get rid of the people that they don't. And you have a situation where Colin Kaepernick wants out. Then Colin Kaepernick, you know, with the whole national anthem and the aftermath of all of that, that whole controversy. And had no impact whatsoever. And by the way, if he gets injured, they're on the hook for the money. So by restructuring his deal, you no longer have to worry about getting stuck with the money in the event that he gets injured because you eradicated that from the restructuring of his contract. And you think that that didn't play any role with them sitting him down whatsoever. That the fact that they could end up getting this contract more favorable to their liking, obviously, played no role whatsoever. They didn't have the foresight to look ahead and say, excuse me, if we do this, we could get Colin Kaepernick to restructure his deal, and ultimately, we don't have to be on the hook for him. You don't think that they were holding out to some degree to get this to happen?
I'm sorry. Weren't you the same guy who, a week or two ago, you were arguing that, in fact, his anthem stance was keeping him off the field.
I said that wasn't the only thing. Don't act like I said that's the only thing. I did not say that. I said everything.
Okay, let's try something else.
Sure.
I'll try a Socratic method, okay?
So Socratic?
Yes,
Socratic.
a question and answer. Dialectic here.
I'm just learning. Let me read it. Socratic. I think I can spell it. I got it.
Like Socrates.
Okay. Go ahead.
Make you a Stoic. Okay.
All right. I got Socratic.
Yes.
Got it. I wrote it down. I'm going to look it up in a minute.
Let me ask you
this. Use it in a sentence.
Yes.
Was Kaepernick's performance in decline before he was removed as the starting quarterback for the Niners?
Yes and no. What I mean is statistically, yes, but all the things that I pointed to about Jim Harbaugh's departure, the kind of system he was playing and how dysfunctional
But it predates Chip Kelly, yes?
Yes.
We have no disagreement that getting rid of Harbaugh suggests not the greatest things about the franchise.
Okay.
Because Harbaugh, as soon as he got there, turned the whole thing around.
Okay.
And as soon as he left, it went straight downhill. You want to identify Harbaugh as the mover of good things there? Absolutely, yes. Does it say bad things about the front office? Also, yes. But we're talking about the franchise as it relates to Kaepernick. He had already lost his starting job before Chip Kelly, correct? Before Chip Kelly got there, Kaepernick was not the starter, right?
Yes.
Did he show up looking much physically smaller than he had been previously?
He looked a little
A little?
But he had the dead shoulder.
I thought it was a little. I thought it was a little.
Okay, so we know that he'd already lost his job, and then he showed up looking, to me, he looked half the size. To you, he looked a little smaller, but there was a physical difference.
Okay.
Has he since put on some weight? You see some of the bulk back?
Yeah, but here's the thing, Max. You're leaving out one very important component. All of that being said, his replacement was Blaine Gabbert.
Which is why he got the job back.
Wait a minute. This is why he should have never lost the damn job, because with a half dead arm, he should be better than Blaine Gabbert, who's 9-31 as a career starter in the NFL. This dude does not win football games, and everyone knows it. So don't tell me that it was just football reasons as to why Colin Kaepernick didn't have the job. I'm saying it was all-encompassing. All of those things contributed to the combination of Balky with Chip Kelly keeping Colin Kaepernick out of that starting lineup. That's what I believe. That's what I believe.
Frequently, if your team isn't ready, if you feel like your O-line can't protect the quarterback, if for a number of reasons you think the team just isn't ready yet, you will sub in a tackling dummy to protect the ultimate guy you actually want playing quarterback. For example, when the Giants drafted Eli Manning, traded up first overall pick, they used Kurt Warner at first as a tackling dummy. I mean, the great Kurt Warner. But still, the line couldn't block. We're not going to risk this guy who's going to be our future. Now, I'm not saying they look at Kaepernick necessarily as the future, but I think they still hold out hope that between Chip and Kaepernick, they can catch lightning in a bottle. Was he going to get on the field before restructuring his contract? I don't think so. But that doesn't mean they were holding him out. He just wasn't ready to play.
Well, you know what? Listen, you can say that all you want to. I believe that the San Francisco 49ers, absolutely, that was incentive to hold him out. And I think it's clear because I think you're giving them the benefit of the doubt. And what I would ask you rhetorically, because we have to move on, is have they done anything to earn the benefit of the doubt from you, me, or anybody else? Don't you dare say they do, because they have not. Not Trent Baalke and not Chip Kelly. There is nothing that they have done to deserve the benefit of the doubt.
Well, I guess if it's a rhetorical question, there's nothing they've done.
Works for me.
Tommy Brady, he's back, and he's not answering questions about Donald Trump. And someone at the desk thinks he's getting a pass for it. We'll explain and react. First take, just getting started.
On the plane, I said I got a priority. I need to be on the table at first take. I don't care where you from, what language you speak. You know what you get? Kevin Hart.
Talking about he gonna take my job.
Let me tell you how I do it. I'll find time to come here and do what you do better.
I sit in my bed and watch you guys talk about nothing.
What you do is assume that's your problem.
I've never seen somebody that's wrong so much.
We joke, we play around. If I don't talk about you, I don't like you. Okay? But I love you.
Don't miss First Take tomorrow when comedian and actor Kevin Hart will be here in studio. It is always fun. You do not want to miss what he has to say. That's tomorrow right here on First Take.
I think that translates into a lot of throws. But, you know, hopefully I can hit those ones down the field. Those are big ones because they change the whole field position. They change, you know, if you throw a 50-yarder, it's 5 first downs. So it shows up on the stat sheet a little differently, but the production is great when you're able to kind of hit those home run balls.
Tom, you have kids of your own. How would you respond if your kids heard Donald Trump's version of locker room talk?
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
So Tom Brady was happy to support his friend and golf buddy Donald Trump when it was simply a matter of placing "Make America Great Again," that hat, in his locker room for everyone to see. But as you can see, Brady wanted nothing to do with the topic when asked about Trump yesterday. Stephen A., is Brady getting a pass for his support of Trump?
He absolutely is. And let me say this. I am not in any way getting involved in all of this other stuff. I don't blame the average Joe out there in the world of sports, unless you're a political aficionado. This is one of those situations where everybody should just stay away from it. It's so polarizing. It's so divisive that I don't blame anybody. I mean, me, I don't run from anything. I'm not scared at all to talk politics or anything like that. But with this particular election, boy, I want no parts of it. Because it's just so divisive. It's crazy right now. And that is that. But here's why I bring up this subject as it pertains to Tom Brady. It's not just the hat. If you recall, he was on WEEI's, the Dennis and Callahan show. I've been a guest on that show many times. They're fabulous guys. They do a great, great job on that station overall all day as far as I'm concerned. But listen to what Tom Brady said in December of last year. He said, guys, can I just stay out of this debate? Donald is a good friend of mine. I have known him for a long time. I support all of my friends. That is what I have to say. This is what Tom Brady said. Now, we live in an age where, I'm going to go here, we've got young star athletes, many of whom happen to be African American, that are not necessarily involved with the political process, don't really intend to get involved. President Obama's ascension in the political ranks obviously compelled African Americans to get involved because he's the first African American president in the history of this country. And it's incredible. It's an incredible level of pride and a badge of honor that we as black people get to look at as such an incredible role model in terms of who he is and what he stands for. And we appreciate that without getting into all of the politics. That's what you see from young African Americans getting involved. But no matter what the situation is, people would ask young African Americans, what do you feel about this? What do you feel about that? It doesn't have to be a political figure. It could be a friend that got in trouble. It could be a friend that's on the wrong side of the tracks, a friend that said something that was divisive or incendiary or whatever the case may be. And young men in their 20s who happen to be black, that might not be privy to a lot of things, are thrusted into the spotlight because the cameras are flashing in front of their face with the microphones, and you want to know what they got to say. I haven't heard any questions to Tom Brady. That's the first time I've heard anybody asking Tom Brady about Donald Trump in months. Now, I know he was suspended the first 4 games. Wasn't he playing in the preseason? Wasn't he available at that particular time over the summer? Didn't you have opportunities while this Republican presidential nominee, who in some people's eyes, a lot of folks have no problem with, others have some problems with him, particularly over the last week, while others have always had a problem with him on the liberal side. Nevertheless, because of the positions that he has taken, because he has been front and center, because he is a magnet for the news, headlines, and whatever, how does arguably the greatest quarterback of this generation, who is a 4-time Super Bowl champion, a surefire first ballot future Hall of Famer, all right, and the face of the NFL as far as I'm concerned at this particular juncture, how in the hell have we not heard people berating Tom Brady with questions about Donald Trump? Because I assure you, if there was a candidate, if Hillary was like Donald Trump and LeBron spoke favorably about Hillary Clinton, I promise you we would berate him with questions. So how is it that Tom Brady got a pass? I think there's a double standard that's existing in America. I'm not talking about whatever position you take. I'm not saying you should take one position or the other. I'm attacking the fact that Tom Brady has, it appears, he has not been bombarded with the inquisition, the questions that undoubtedly would have come in the direction of young African-American athletes. Why hasn't Tom Brady been subjected to the same thing? I'd like to know the answer to that question, Max.
2 words, I think, primarily: Deflategate. I think that has acted as an unwitting, as an unintended consequences of Deflategate is that has been what's been foremost on everyone's mind about Tom Brady, and so he's escaped the kind of questions that he got about Trump very recently. But yes, he's gotten a pass from that. And also, as the campaigns have gone on, more behavior has been seen from both candidates, and people make judgments about that. And if you say outlandish things and things from your past start to come to light, then previous support for a certain candidate will result in questions asked. Now, I'm sympathetic to those who say, look, I have a personal loyalty to someone that in my own worldview supersedes other information I know about them. And that's the way we're wired as human beings, by the way. I think in terms of our interpersonal relationships, we value them more and make more of our judgments about people based on our interactions with them than kind of just the abstract knowledge of other stuff about them. So I am kind of sympathetic to that view. But regarding what you said earlier, I don't feel that way, that people should stay out of it because in this election, because it's political, and in the past it would have been okay. In fact, I think more than ever now, I disagree with editorial policies in the media that say there has to be a veneer of, not a veneer, actual kind of false equivalencies with candidates because there's neutrality. We have to stay neutral. Even as information comes out about which most reasonable people would have very strong judgments. The fact that the media is bending over backwards to attempt to remain so neutral, I think, is a damaging thing. Nevertheless, I will respect that policy here right now and limit this just to Tom Brady. If you lend your considerable celebrity to someone's cause, whether for personal reasons because you know them or political, a feeling that you're like-minded politically, then you should expect questions about that allegiance when behavior comes out from that candidate, when there are reports about that candidate's past and audio existing, that maybe it's a person that you shouldn't be supporting. You should answer those questions.
You should answer those questions, but more importantly, to our point about the purposes of this debate, you should be bombarded with the questions.
Well, it just started. I'll bet you'll be bombarded now.
What I'm saying is he needs to be bombarded because here's the deal. If this were LeBron James or anybody else, if this was one of these marquee black athletes, it don't even have to be a political figure, man. And you know, they folks, it's about guilt by association. That's how they try to come at you. Well, how could, like, for example, that's hypothetically speaking, based on what happened this weekend, you know, and what Donald Trump had to explain during the debates. Let's just do that for a second. If it was a guy, if it was one of these athletes, particularly one of these African-American athletes, they would have went like this. Is that the kind of stuff that y'all talked about when y'all were together? How do you feel about that? Why is that your friend? I mean, how come you haven't condemned him?
This is the first time they've had access to Brady.
Keep in mind one thing, they had that loophole, remember? So media couldn't talk to him prior to Sunday.
The first time they had access, they asked him.
Ladies, listen up.
Ladies.
Him. Lady. Him. What I'm saying is this. Here's what I'm saying. When you talk about that, I'm not saying this weekend per se. This election has been going on for months. Yeah. And there have been quite a few things that at least some folks have had a problem with when it comes to one particular candidate.
They haven't had access to Brady.
Wait a minute.
They just got access to him.
You had access to him this summer. There were plenty of times you've had opportunities to ask this man questions. All I'm saying is this. Again, I'm not knocking Tom Brady. I'm not knocking, I'm knocking the media from the perspective of you need to bombard him with questions because if this were a black athlete, it doesn't even have to be a political candidate. It could be a friend. And you would have been all over him. Is that the kind of people you associate with? Is that the kind of stuff y'all talk about?
And what I'm saying to you is whether or not, and I do think that race, it's impossible to know how much race plays in, but I always assume, based on the history of our country, that it plays some role. In fact, look at this election and how it breaks down along racial lines, including in NFL locker rooms, by the way, maybe especially in NFL locker rooms.
In this particular case,
the numbers are shocking, but what I'm telling you is the press hasn't had access to Brady. They have it now. And my prediction is he will be bombarded to the point where the NFL and the Patriots are going to have to do something about it.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Was there access to Brady Sunday?
No.
None whatsoever.
No, remember we debated the loophole.
Sunday. It was Sunday. I'm saying that was coming into the game. I didn't know if that was the case post-game after they played the Browns.
Post-game, 100%
okay, so,
access.
let me ask you this question. There was 100% access after they beat the Browns, right? Correct?
Of course.
When was the presidential debate? It was Sunday night.
Yeah.
You played Sunday afternoon. And wait a minute, you got all of this news coming out. I've seen it.
What do you think's going to happen?
I have seen it. There is no way that LeBron James or Melo or CP3, Richard Sherman or whoever you want to pick, there is no way that a story of that magnitude is out, and they would not have been bombarded with questions immediately after that game on Sunday, especially since the debate was that night.
Let's say race was the determining factor there in terms of the timing, at the earliest possible moment that one would be asked a question or not. In that case, and let's say I can see, okay, fine, that existed. That is going to help Tom Brady, as it turns out, by one press conference. He got out of the one after the Browns. Maybe race played a factor, if that's your argument. He got hit at the next press conference, and my contention is now he will get bombarded at every press conference and any media access to the point where the Patriots, Tom Brady's own people, and the NFL is going to have to do something about it.
That's fine, but again, that's not the point. The point is, had that been most others, you would have been all over them, bombarding them with. I'm not blaming Tom Brady for this. Tom Brady didn't do anything wrong here. I am simply saying, not anything wrong. I'm just saying the point is, in this particular situation, him walking away from the press conference, that wouldn't have been acceptable. You would have had to answer. You would have had to answer. Others would have. Why can't Tom Brady? And I'm not just talking about black folks. It could be white folks, too. They would not have had to be. Why is Tom Brady getting a pass in terms of being bombarded with the questions? Where's the Inquisition? Where's him having to stand up and answer and illuminate his relationship with Donald Trump?
And the criticism of him walking away from those questions. He deserves criticism.
Good with it.
We will leave it there. Carmelo Anthony ranked as the 15th best player in the NBA, and he isn't happy about it. The guys will react after the break. Athletes rarely agree with polls and rankings, but Carmelo Anthony is particularly unhappy with Slam Online ranking him number 15 on the list of the NBA top players for this season. Melo responded by commenting on Slam's Instagram post twice, writing, "Don't play yourself," and "all credibility lost in my emoji eyes." Stephen A., should Carmelo be upset that he's ranked the 15th best player in the NBA?
He's absolutely correct to be upset. We all know that I had to be a little bit critical of Carmelo Anthony this summer. Had to apologize because, I should have reached out to him while he was in Bristol, but that's another story in Brazil, rather. But that's another story for another day. I've known this man for 13 years. I will admit that, I got an affection for him. I got love for Melo. But when it comes to my basketball critique, I'm going to call it like I see it, Max Kellerman. I think it's blasphemous that anybody would say there are 15 players in the NBA better than Carmelo Anthony. It's absolute blasphemy. And listen, I'm the guy that when ESPN itself, and I do work here, when ESPN itself comes up with some of these bogus polls or whatever it is, I call it like I see it. When it's nonsense, I call it nonsense. And what is it, Slam magazine?
Slam Online.
Slam Online. Yeah. Very good, by the way. Very good publication. They know their basketball. They do good work. I'm not talking about them negatively. I'm only talking about this ranking. To tell me that there are 14 players in the NBA better than Carmelo Anthony, whoever did that needs to be drug tested. This dude averaged 25 and 6 for his career. His numbers go up to 25.7 come postseason time. I am not satisfied with his winning. I am not satisfied with him constantly getting the money but not getting a ring. I am certainly not satisfied, even though I got nothing but respect for his love for LeBron James because they are friends. Damn it, hate him during the season. Hate him. Hate him. I don't know what you got to do to him. Let's stop him. Do something because I'm tired of watching LeBron get rings and Melo not even being in the NBA Finals. But when we talk about individual talent, Melo's on another level. 6'8", 240, threes, mid-range game, can shoot from the free throw line, can shoot from anywhere, can post up, play with his back to the basket, play with facing the basket. 14 players better than Carmelo Anthony? Somebody needs to be drug tested immediately. Immediately.
Yeah, you're the one who needs to be drug tested immediately. Now, I know once upon a time on this show you were the young guy. But man, you sound old when you just point to like points averaged and stuff like that.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the game. I'm talking about the game.
Yeah, points averaged.
And I am older than you. Yes, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it, by the way. But go ahead.
Well, I'm getting up there myself.
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
But you're making me feel young because it's not that you're against stats. See, when I cite stats, a lot of people, oh, you're citing stats.
No. I
Then
just
you
mentioned
counter,
a stat or two. You come up with sabermetrics and all this other nonsense that people can't understand.
I thought this was a time where I...
Go ahead.
Now, then you counter with other stats. The only difference is the stats you counter with aren't that important. If you shoot a lot, and Carmelo's certainly good at scoring, you'll rack up high points totals, on average. It's not easy to do, but you can do it.
That's where
there are more, I don't think PER is a perfect stat, but it's better than just points averaged. Carmelo ranked 37th last year. Look, in fact, there's a very good argument that Carmelo is top 5 in the NBA.
Thank you.
At his position, because there are 4 dudes at his position that I would take in a heartbeat over Carmelo.
I'm listening.
LeBron James.
Yes, easy. Go ahead.
Kevin Durant.
Yes, go ahead.
Kawhi Leonard. Oh, you want to pause? Okay, I know about that. You don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Let me. If you're talking about defensively, yes, but offensively,
overall.
No. Listen. I'm sorry. We talking buckets right now. Watch your mouth and don't be blasphemous.
You're talking buckets.
I'm talking buckets because, excuse me, it matters. Defense wins championships, but points win games.
Kawhi can't score.
You know what? Come postseason, I'm not so sure.
Can he score?
Come postseason, I'm not so sure. Come postseason, I'm not so sure.
Who does what better? Does Kawhi score better or does Carmelo play defense better?
Well,
thank you. Okay. Paul George or Carmelo Anthony? So
I would give it Melo.
Okay, you would give it Melo. You would give it. I would give it Paul George. I don't have to think that much about it, but you have to pause, which means it's not ridiculous for you to put Kawhi or Paul George. That's 4 dudes in his own position.
That's fine, but what I'm saying to you is I need 14 dudes.
Okay, that's 4. I'm counting that as 4.
Go ahead.
Steph Curry.
Go ahead.
That's 5.
Go ahead.
Russell Westbrook.
Yes, 6.
6.
Go ahead.
Chris Paul.
Oh,
yes.
That's not fair.
Why is that not fair?
Because Chris Paul's a floor general. I need a floor general.
Well, see,
I need a floor general. That's not right.
Well, we're ranking all the players. That's
not right, though.
We're ranking all the players.
Okay.
See, look, this is a mistake.
Fine. I'll give you because Chris Paul to me is the best orchestrator in the game.
15?
No.
Okay. Anthony Davis.
When healthy, yes.
Oh, so we got LeBron, we got Anthony,
that's 8.
we got Anthony, we got Kevin Durant, Steph Curry.
I'm saying he's top
Russell
10.
Westbrook.
Go ahead, keep going.
Blake Griffin.
No.
You take Carmelo over Blake Griffin?
Excuse me.
You're the one,
No. I would not take Carmelo.
Man, I wish you were a GM and I was negotiating.
I would not take Carmelo over Blake Griffin because Blake Griffin is younger.
Who's a better
basketball player? Melo.
No.
Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin. Let me ask you a question. Come postseason time, who do you want? You want Blake Griffin or you want Melo?
Blake Griffin.
You want Blake Griffin over Carmelo Anthony?
Easy.
I don't even know what to say to you right now. I don't even know what to say to you right now.
I'm not done.
Keep going.
James Harden or Carmelo Anthony? James Harden's a perennial MVP candidate.
Fine.
So, I mean, how many dudes do I need? Or Boogie Cousins or Carmelo?
No.
You're taking Carmelo over Boogie?
Wait a minute. That's a different... See,
it's different positions. We're ranking all the positions.
But you're losing me here because, again, here's why. Boogie Cousins could put up the numbers. There's no doubt. So can Melo. But at the same time, I consider Boogie Cousins the best big man of the game.
Me too.
The problem is that he's kind of polarizing, never played in the postseason.
Who are you putting first, Carmelo or Boogie?
I don't know.
Okay, I do.
don't know.
But if you don't know, then you don't have to be drug tested to put him ahead of him.
What I'm saying to you is this. If you're telling me 32 years of age, or I'm saying to you, based on what Carmelo Anthony can do with a basketball.
I just gave you 11 dudes.
No, I don't think you have. 2 of them were debatable to me.
Okay,
2 of them were
here are debatable to me. Kyrie Irving or Carmelo? See, that's debatable.
Okay.
Damian Lillard or Carmelo?
Melo.
I think that's debatable. But the point is, by your own admission, you would have him somewhere between 10 and 15.
Yeah, by my own admission.
Well, so why is it drug tested?
By my own admission, I consider Carmelo Anthony one of the top 10 offensive players of this generation.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
What's that got to do with ranking the players right now?
Because when you say you're ranking the players right now, you're discarding that.
No. That's why he's on the list in top 15.
Listen. They're discarding that. What kind of season did Anthony Davis come over? What kind of season does Blake Griffin come off of? Come on now. I mean, there's questions about this. Paul George is great. I know that. But Melo?
The other mistake is, if you're talking about one-on-one who has the most offensive skills, Carmelo's obviously in the top 10. It's not played one-on-one. It's played 5-on-5, and you got to play both ways.
You also got to take into account teammates. If I'm playing with a bunch of scrubs, that's more work on my shoulders.
And be the deciding factor, a true NBA fan, Lil Wayne, who is here right now joining us. Come on out. Lil Wayne in the house. Stay tuned. Can you help me out? 'Cause these two are out of control this AM. Do you hear them?
Max, how you going on? Good. Nice to meet you. Steve, how you doing, Max?
You could win a chance to debate Stephen A. and Max right here on national television. We are going to pick two winners and fly you to ESPN headquarters in Bristol, Connecticut. All you got to do, go to firsttakeyourtake.com. Be sure to read and follow all the rules for your chance to win. Then upload a 1-minute video with your best original sports debate. People, please keep it clean. Plus no music, trademarks, copyrighted material. And we just want you to be yourself on camera impressing us. Winners will be announced November 23rd by our show staff, so get busy, work on those, and we hope to see you here on the debate desk taking on these two.
We're gonna be playing their video at the bottom, last segment of each hour. We're gonna show two every day. We're gonna pick winners every day. And then the finalists, you know, they're gonna roll up in there. Apparently, you know, Lil Wayne, cats think they can come at us, and you know, I got to shut them down once and for all. I mean, they brought it on themselves. I try to be nice, you know that. I try to be nice, but they brought it on themselves. They asked for it, so they want to come on national TV and get embarrassed. Okay.
You know what it's like. Everyone wants to be a rapper, right? Coming up, trying to battle you. How long has that been going on?
They never tried to battle me.
What, you got any tips for these people? Taking on these two?
Just know what you're doing and know what you're talking about, because once you stand over there once you stand over there waiting to walk in and already hear what's going on, you might be intimidated and walk out.
Yeah. Fair enough.
How about that?
Wait,
Good advice. Good advice.
So good to have you here.
Thanks.
I want to start with this topic. So rumor is you had an issue with this man saying Big Papi is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Would you like to say something to him?
David Ortiz, Big Papi.
I just don't understand. I actually thought that, because I've been on shows and I know for a fact sometimes we need, if it's two people on the show and both of us agree on the subject, the producer may ask us, we need you to disagree just to make it a debate.
We don't roll like that here.
I thought that's what was going on. I was like, I know he cannot actually believe that Papi's not a first. You serious?
See, that doesn't happen here on First Take. We say what we want. Now, I was telling Lil Wayne what I think of him as a rapper before we started this segment.
Thank you.
A lot of rappers who are considered great rappers, they're great lyricists. In fact, to me, it feels like they need to, when they say they get open, it means there's an opportunity for a rhyme, and they do it, and then that starts to influence the story they're going to tell or what they're going to say.
Yeah,
Lil Wayne is one of 3 or 4 guys alive today, I believe, where you are the master of the words.
Yeah. But answer his question.
Well, I say you are the master of the words. You don't have to. You say exactly what you want.
Thank you.
But this ain't the studio. This ain't the booth.
Intro.
This is the debate desk, and you got to come harder than that. Lil Wayne, you're talking about. Do you really believe that? Did you hear my argument? Let me restate it.
I heard your argument.
David Ortiz was a great hitter by any measure. However, there's something called home road splits in baseball. Yeah. Does your home ballpark affect you positively? The answer was yes.
Yes, it does.
Now, in his case, because he hit at a great hitter's park, people who say, well, that's good for righties, not lefties. In Ortiz's case, I'm telling you, you look at the home road splits, on base and slugging, the significant stats, he's better at home than on the road. Still a great hitter on the road. But as a DH, you need more than that to get into the Hall of Fame. You see, there's something called, I'll tell everyone about baseball a little bit here. I know you're a big sports fan, baseball fan.
Gotcha.
There's a spectrum in baseball from left to right. The hardest positions to play versus the easiest. Catcher on the left, then shortstop, like that. All the way over to first base, or in the American League, DH.
Gotcha.
And the more you are on the left, the less of a bat you need to be good. But the more you are on the right toward DH, the more of a bat you need to be good. And David Ortiz did not hit better than Edgar Martinez, who's not in the Hall of Fame. He did not hit better than Jim Thome, who also played more defense than Ortiz, who he hasn't been up on the ballot yet, but should be in the Hall of Fame before Ortiz. I'm not saying he should never get there, maybe eventually, but he's not a first ballot.
Question. Do you agree when I say David Ortiz is the most clutch hitter of all time?
Of the guys I've seen, he is up there.
Question. Okay. Now, if your position and your job is a DH, that means you come in, they need you to come in to do something. And if you come in and you are the most clutch, and that's your job to come in and spark it up when we need to spark it up, and you are known and we are respecting you as the most clutch, I think you've done your job more than your job.
Well, let me chime in here. Just looking at the numbers, two-time World Series champion, 10-time All-Star, 286 career batting average, 380 career on base, 2,472 hits, ranks 103 all-time, 541 home runs, 17th all-time, 1,768 RBIs, ranks 22nd all-time, 1,192 extra base hits, 8th all-time, and only the third player in Major League Baseball history with 500 home runs and 600 doubles. The only two other people who have ever done it is Barry Bonds, Hank Aaron. Now you go to the ballpark. I'm sitting there going like this. Ain't his fault that he was in Boston. You got a Boston. I mean, can't hold that against him. Not only that, you're acknowledging and admitting that he was clutch. You're acknowledging and admitting that he was great on the road, just greater at home. So if somebody shows up when it counts, no matter where they are,
exactly.
I'm sorry, you put him in there. Now, it ain't his fault that Jim Thome ain't in there. It ain't his fault that Edgar Martinez ain't in there. Maybe you should put Edgar Martinez in there too. All I'm saying is when his time comes up, there is no question that he is the exception. There is no question that he is the dude that should go in there.
You're missing the point about Fenway Park, which does not surprise me. It's not that it's his fault that he played at Fenway. It means that we still evaluate what he did at every other ballpark. And I'm telling you right now, what he did at every other ballpark as a DH would not be enough to get him in the Hall. But I would say this, his postseason performances, specifically World Series performances, maybe tips the bounds, but close. You're referring to a lot of traditional stats that are simply not as important.
But it's not just
simply not as important.
For me, it's clutch, though. I give you those stats because the numbers itself validates it, but your argument in favor of those other things, I'm like, wait a minute. If the man shows up in the clutch,
exactly,
that matters.
Okay, Bernie Williams isn't in the Hall of Fame.
You said if the numbers doesn't matter, then I know him being to the left of the left and the right of the right, that can't matter neither. Then
why is that?
If the numbers don't matter,
the numbers do matter. I'm saying the numbers do matter. And if you're all the way where he is as a DH, you need ridiculous numbers to get in. Did he get them? Maybe, but not first ballot. Bernie Williams, a center fielder for the Yankees, whose careers overlap with Ortiz, in his prime, according to all the advanced numbers that really tell you how good someone is, was better than Ortiz. Now, he didn't have the longevity, but he was the center fielder and cleanup hitter. But the point is, he's not in the Hall of Fame. This is the way the Hall of Fame works.
That's his problem.
That's the way the Hall of Fame works.
Not always.
The way the Hall of Fame works is you see the standard of other players that were let in. You compare the new player to that standard. That's how it works.
No. You judge the player by what the player does.
Right now.
But he's not playing in a vacuum. You're comparing him to everyone else. It's a Hall of Fame.
Everybody ain't playing for Boston. You taking in the ballpark consideration. You holding that against him because he's a lefty.
I'm just not giving him super extra credit for it. I'm seeing what he did on the road.
But you acknowledge that he was great when he stepped away from Fenway. Just not as great as at Fenway.
But it wasn't like he fell off a cliff.
It wasn't like he fell off a cliff and he was a scrub somewhere else. Let's go to the Cowboys, man. You don't understand.
I don't understand.
We're just getting started with Little Wayne. Wayne, we need your take on a lot of different subjects. Let's take a quick break. More First Take with Wayne in just a moment. Stay here.
You're watching First Take, presented by Bass Pro Shops.
I tried to put myself, say, in Tony's shoes. I'm sure Tony wants to play. I mean, he doesn't want to get injured. He wants to be productive. But you have to look at the dynamics right now. And they really are hitting on all cylinders. So this is hypothetically thinking. If you're Tony, you say, you know what? As much as I want to play, I don't want to press the issue. I want to play, but I'm going to let it play out right now. And it's probably better if Dak starts struggling and then they bring me in rather than they put me in and then all of a sudden we're not hitting on all cylinders and everyone's like, they should have got rid of Tony. Blah, blah. I mean, if I'm making sense. So I'm not saying that you tell Garrett or Jerry Jones, look, I don't want to play. I think you want to play, but look, I don't want to mess up the dynamics of the team. If we get to a point where we're struggling, then it's time for me to come in. Now, that's a hard thing to do. I just think you're better if you wait till you're really needed. And I mean, no disrespect whatsoever to Tony.
Lil Wayne, I'm watching you smile while you hear that voice. You know, Brett Favre, your former quarterback, see you with the Green Bay. Yeah. But before we get to the question, Stephen, did you want to mention something?
I just want to make sure everybody knows. I know David Ortiz is a 3-time World Series champion. I kept saying 2-time. I kept saying 2-time. It's because I want to forget the fact that he got his first beating the Yankees en route to the first title. That's why I wanted to.
That wasn't it.
But go ahead. Go ahead, man.
You okay with your former quarterback, Brett Favre, saying that about Mr. Romo?
Yeah, I think it was very wise. And everybody's kind of, they like, what's wrong with? They're like, oh, that's not Brett, that's not Brett who you. They think Brett, he said this about Aaron, and that's the Brett that retired but came back, and that's the Brett that would never. It's not my job to help her. That's not that Brett. This is Brett Favre. This is who he is, and this is what he's saying. And let's not worry about who's it coming from, and pay attention to what he's saying. He made sense.
Well, I'm gonna pay attention to who the hell said it.
I'm
not gonna let that go, Lil Wayne. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because I'm just saying, when you were an individual, meaning Brett Favre, when you were that dude that couldn't make up your mind when you wanted to retire, when you wanted to stay home, when you are the dude playing the quarterback position, which we're religiously told, you're not just a football player. I mean, you're the leader of the team. I mean, you're supposed to set the shining example. I mean, if you don't do it right, who else? But you've got to be that leader, the quarterback spot. This dude was nothing but the last 5 years. This dude was a walking prima donna, couldn't make up his mind when he wanted to stay, when he wanted to go, would literally leave teams dangling in the wind. Wait, 1 year he showed up to camp for Minnesota's last year in August. I mean, he wouldn't make up his mind whether he wanted to play or not until August. Now, I was told and I was taught this does incredible damage to a football team. Oh, but not when it comes to Brett Favre. He's Brett Favre. I mean, did you know that? He threw for 71,000 yards in his career. He threw all of these touchdowns passes. Did you see him jump into the arms of his offensive lineman? Did you see him give them hugs? Did you see how he got tripped up and threw the ball underhanded to a receiver? Oh, look at the little kid in him. He still loves the game. He's just eating. Oh, you just love it. Don't you see it? Everybody fawning and drooling all over him. This is that dude. So you got the nerve to open your mouth about Tony Romo? No, Little Wayne, no. I'm not accepting that. I'm not saying he was wrong. I'm saying I don't want to hear that from Brett Favre. Go do your regular Wrangler jeans commercial, okay? Show up when they ask you to. Sit there and take pictures. You understand? Show up to Hall of Fame celebrations and all this. I don't want to hear nothing else from Brett Favre. Please.
Honestly, I think Brett was looking at it like, Tony ain't no Brett.
Thank you.
Tony ain't no Brett. So Brett was looking at it like, I'm telling y'all what Tony should do.
Try to explain this to you.
Y'all ain't ask me what I would do and what I should do, because y'all already know what I would do and what I should do. I might not know what I would do till August, but I was talking about till whenever I'm ready. I'm ready. But Tony y'all asked me what Tony should do, and because he ain't me, he need to let that boy do what he doing.
And what about this? Is Favre telling on himself? Is he saying, look, this is the way, in a way, this is the way I would play it? Of course I want to play, so what I would do is I don't want to start right now, because if we lose, then I'm out. So, hey, Tony, if you want to be slick about it, let the kid keep playing. They're going to hit a rough patch. When they do, boom, you get in there. Is he telling on himself?
I don't think he's telling on himself. I think he's just answering the question, man.
No, you're answering the questions. All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm glad you were focused on the message, the only one here. The messenger.
It's so touching. It's so touching. It's so touching.
Let's change subjects, can we, Stephen A?
Favre, please. Go do your Wrangler commercials.
Wayne,
go ahead.
Let's talk a little NFC East. So you root for Redskins?
No, in football,
just the Packers? Or you like the Redskins in the NFC East? Or is that bad information?
No, that's bad information.
Okay, bad information.
Who do you like in the NFC East? Do you have a strong opinion about it?
I mean, I believe the Redskins would be a lot better if they located D-Jack more. He's a great receiver, and he's kind of invisible sometimes.
Well, you know what it is? I watched him last week. Deshaun Jackson's who you're talking about.
Yeah.
He was very frustrated. Actually, he was targeted. Kirk Cousins just overthrew him about 3 times.
Exactly.
So this is what you have in the nation's capital, okay? When I look at the NFC East, these folks, they don't get it. They don't get it, Lil Wayne. They don't understand how I'm plotting. Because you do know this about me with the Cowboy fans. I think they're disgusting. I think they're the worst fan base in American history. I can't stand the Cowboy fans. I can't stand them, okay? They make me sick. But I will tell you this.
Shout out, Ant.
Everybody thinks that I want the Cowboys to lose. They don't understand. Go ahead and let them win. Let me get right up there, Max. Let me get right up there to the tip. Let me get right up there. Let me get to the NFC Championship game. Let them have a lead in the fourth quarter. Let them be up by 20 and then blow it. I want an epic failure. That's what I want.
I want to lick the tears off the fans' face. Like
That's what I'm after.
And that's the more heartbreaking it is, the sweeter the tears.
And I hope that Jerry Jones and the Cowboys invite me to Texas Stadium, because you know what I'll do? I will party with Cowboy fans for a tailgate party and laugh right in their face when it happens. I would do it. I really would. I'm silly.
Speaking of Deshaun Jackson,
right?
You know how hard it is to overthrow Deshaun Jackson?
Exactly.
How do you overthrow that guy? I mean, the quarterback play in Washington, except for RG3's rookie year, has not been consistently good in how many years?
Well, Kirk Cousins played well last year, but it was against mediocre talent.
Yeah, and it was for a few games. It was some spurts to me. It wasn't, you know, I thought that was what I actually thought was happening was how we blow. When I say we, I mean us, America, how we just blow things up, you know. I might make a shot behind my, Lil Wayne's the best basketball player. You know, just I think that was happening.
Gotcha.
What he said, you like that or something like that?
You like that? You like that's why the Green Bay Packers ended their season by saying, you like that?
Hey, who you telling?
The division up for grabs like always, but clearly Carson Wentz and Dak both putting on a show. But let's get your thoughts on the Lakers real quick. First time without Kobe for 20 seasons. What are your expectations?
I don't have any.
Smart.
I don't have any expectations. I'm just gonna watch and enjoy and see what we have, see what we're doing, and I think they should go out there the same way, just have fun and play ball, and then just try to figure something out for the time being. I don't have any expectations. I mean,
let me make news today.
Okay.
I've decided I'm gonna be a little bit nice to Jim Buss this year. Even though I believe that he played a very significant role in ruining this franchise. I've gotten on him enough. And now that they've hired Luke Walton, who I like, who I'm confident will do a good job eventually, I'm going to sit up here and try to give the Los Angeles Lakers a little pass here. I'm hoping. I was just in L.A., you know, a couple of days ago. I did the Jimmy Kimmel show. While I was in L.A., that little buzz, that fever that you felt when Kobe was there, totally gone. It's not there now. Let's see what happens.
Well, I mean, one of the good things about Kobe being so bad the last couple seasons of his career, they extended his contract before he ever showed he could play again. After the Achilles, he was never the same. He had games here and there, but basically was a terrible player, especially for one who touched the ball so much. But the benefit was fans, Lil Wayne and others, want to see Kobe. You got that. Lakers fans got to build through the draft, and now they have an interesting young nucleus and a lot of cap space going forward. Even though I don't love the way they handled it in this offseason, they still have some flexibility going forward.
They already messed up because even though he's a decent player with promise, you don't draft D'Angelo Russell ahead of Jaleel Okafor.
Yes, you do.
No, you don't.
Yes, you do. We got a lot to talk about in the NBA.
Yes, we do. Wayne, appreciate you. Always good to see you. Thank you so much for being here with us. Come back again soon.
Welcome back to First Take, presented by Bass Pro Shops.
Ronda Rousey's return to the octagon is finally set. Yes, sir. The former champ will fight Amanda Nunes on December 30th at UFC 207, that one in Sin City. Rousey has not fought since she suffered a stunning knockout loss, as we all remember, to Holly Holm at UFC 193 last November. Stephen A., I want to start with you here. Does Rousey deserve a title shot in her UFC return?
No, she does not. No, she does not. And I have profound respect for Ronda Rousey, and I'm very fond of her. I mean no disrespect whatsoever. She didn't just lose to Holly Holm. She got beat up. If you're coming back and you're fighting Holly Holm, that's different. Because you're fighting somebody that beat you up, that match makes sense. You get an opportunity to avenge what transpired against you and what you suffered from. Or I wouldn't even have a problem if, let's say, for example, she happened to lose, and then Holly Holm steps in the ring with somebody, Amanda Nunes or anybody else, and she loses, and then that's it. But the amount of time that Ronda Rousey has spent away from the game itself, it will be more than a year. We saw her on, and I'm not joking about any of this. This is not funny. We saw her on the wonderful show Ellen, acknowledging that she was almost suicidal. She wanted to die. You understand? This is some serious, serious psychological damage that has been done to her. I think it's something that you could potentially overcome if you're going into the ring, Max, with the person who beat you. But when you step away from the game, particularly the fight game, for such a lengthy period of time, and then you just come back and you're thrusted into a quote-unquote title shot, and it's not against the person that you're trying to avenge. Now we've got to take all of those ancillary things into consideration. The amount of time off, your mental state of mind, et cetera, et cetera. And that is why I don't believe she deserves this title shot. If it were Holly Holmes, then it makes more sense because the level of urgency, focus, et cetera, you're trying to avenge a beatdown. But just to be thrusted into a title slot against a champion who's somebody that you haven't faced, I'm saying there are others who have been fighting that deserve that. You need to show that you're willing to work your way back. You wouldn't need to do that if it were Holly Holm. But against anybody else, you need to show that you're working your way back to that level of prominence.
Yes, she does deserve the title shot. And I totally disagree with you. Now, I'll say this. Whether she should take the title shot is another story. And I've spoken to Dana White about this, and he and I just don't see it the same way. I think particularly against Holly Holm, you don't take that shot. The old saying in the fight game, at least in boxing, is if one fighter knocks out another fighter, they'll do it again in the rematch, but quicker. I don't think it's a good idea to get right back in with the fighter that stopped you.
Quick interruption.
Yes.
Didn't work for Lennox Lewis versus Hakeem Rahman.
Occasionally there is a difference.
Right.
It doesn't hold up all the time.
I know, but occasionally there's a difference.
When Shane Mosley loses to Vernon Forrest, maybe don't get right back in with him the next fight. Right. Because, that person has your number, and there's also a psychological advantage they have. Now, whether or not she, and I wouldn't start with the top of the division if I were Ronda Rousey. I think that's a mistake. I think you need to get your confidence back slowly, although the UFC is very dangerous because they're all world-class fighters. Hard to find a soft opponent there. Maybe the thought is, look, everyone's dangerous. Might as well take a shot at the title if you're going to take that risk anyway. This is why she deserves it. Deserves the shot, not whether she should take it. She deserves it. There's an old philosophical question in boxing about this, and some people feel as you do. They say if you're the champion and you lose, you shouldn't get an immediate rematch at the title because there are other contenders waiting in line. You've already benefited from the title. You lost. There are other people who haven't just lost who've been waiting. Let the #1 contender get their shot and get in line, and then you'll get a shot eventually. I don't feel that way. I think if you are a champion, particularly a dominant champion, who's taking on one world-class fighter after another, as Ronda Rousey was doing, and was so dominant that she was not only clearly the most dominant fighter in female, at least UFC, if not MMA, but also UFC and MMA's biggest star. It is actually, after all sports money-making ventures. It's not just athletic competition. It's also entertainment. You have to give the people what they want. But if you've done that and gone through all the top contenders, your resume says you've earned a title shot, even if you've lost to the last person you faced. You've earned that immediate rematch, particularly as an active and dominant champion. Now, she's taken a year off. That's true.
But that's a big deal, man.
That makes it unwise, but it doesn't mean she doesn't deserve it.
But that's why she doesn't deserve it, because she required so much time. If you just lost a fight, every argument that you just made makes sense. If you just lost a fight and you coming back in regularly scheduled, etc., this woman was psychologically damaged, her jaw was shut, she couldn't even chew an apple for 6 months and all of this other stuff. She got beat up. And I'm saying to you, when you go through that, not just physically, but psychologically, you don't walk back in to a title fight after a lengthy period of time.
Okay,
and it has been a lengthy period of time.
If you want to say, look, we're on the same page about it's not wise to do it.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying she doesn't deserve it.
I'm saying it's not wise. But in terms of deserving it, the only argument really, I think, against deserving it, because she clearly, look, the question was who can challenge her. That's how dominant she was. She had to fight rematches because there was no one else to fight in her division. She was stopping everyone very, very quickly. So the argument really is she took so much time off that she doesn't deserve the rematch. How many fights did she actually miss in terms of time off? 2, maybe, that she would have had scheduled that she couldn't have scheduled? Maybe 3. I think her resume far outweighs a couple of fights not happening till this point.
I disagree.
All I know is I'm excited that she's getting back in the octagon and that she is going to fight again, because there's questions there after the fact of that last loss. Coming up next, Ben Roethlisberger knows why the Steelers are all banged up, and Mike Tomlin won't be happy with his explanation. We'll react after the break.
we go as hard as anybody in training camp and during the season. And obviously, I'm not one to complain because I don't get hit like the other guys do, but I will stand up for the guys up front and running backs and guys that take a pounding every day during a long season. The season's super long as it is and very physical. And when you're doing it over and over and the guys, their shoulders are getting sore and knees start getting sore and hips and hamstrings and quads and things, and then they reoccur, you got to take a look at maybe what you're doing. But I know we pride ourselves on, as a Pittsburgh Steelers, being a physical football team, so I know it's a fine line you have to walk.
Big Ben saying on his weekly radio appearance that physical practices may be taking a toll on the Steelers roster. So listen to this. The Steelers have listed 25 different players as out for a game this year, which is 8 more than the next closest team, according to ESPN Stats and Info. Mark Schlereth in the house. You know a little something about injuries and surgeries and things of that nature.
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
You've had a couple in your day, but you still played. You're a gamer. I want to start with you, though, here, Max. What are your thoughts on these comments? Do you think they're a big deal moving forward for the Steelers?
Yes, I think they're a very big deal, actually, because I find it hard to believe that Ben Roethlisberger would come out and say this publicly without talking about it with Mike Tomlin privately. And maybe he didn't, it seems to me he didn't get the answer he was looking for from coach, and now is exerting pressure on a great and popular head coach, because he's a great and popular quarterback, publicly. Yeah, I think that's a big deal. He's maybe taking a bullet in a sense for his teammates because they're all banged up, right? He's like, well, if Mike Tomlin's philosophy is you got to practice hard, you know, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So if that's your philosophy and you got to practice hard to play hard, okay. But Roethlisberger's saying, hey, maybe we need to take our foot off the gas, heard and know, and now is trying to apply public pressure. I'm sure coach isn't happy about that, and that's just for his teammates. If he's doing that for his teammates and trying to lead in that way, what about him? He's an older quarterback who's taken a ton of hits, a big, strong guy. Before Cam Newton, all these hits were allowed on Cam Newton. They were allowed on Ben Roethlisberger.
Right.
Maybe the message he's sending is, Coach, take it easy on me, too. And if Coach is like, this is the way it is in Pittsburgh, what does that mean going forward for Ben Roethlisberger?
When I think about Mike Tomlin, the reason why I disagree and I don't think it's a big deal is because of Mike Tomlin. He's got the kind of personality where he's as straight up as they come, Max. He's just one of those real raw dudes. This is the way that it is or whatever. Let me know how you feel. Adjustments will be made. I don't think it's one of those situations where Big Ben Roethlisberger is saying something, trying to use the media to influence Mike Tomlin, because that'll never work. I'm quite sure it's one of those things where he's just being open about how he feels. Mike Tomlin's one of them straight up dudes. He's going to listen to what or hear what it is. He'll probably have a talk with him. If he hasn't already, he'll evaluate it and move it forward. I will say it is a concern when 25 different players are out for a game this year, okay? When you've got that, and then you also take into account the 2011 collective bargaining agreement where teams are not allowed to hold overly physical practices in season. If they're saying something like that's going on, that could be a different problem. But barring that, I think it's one of those situations where Mike Tomlin would just address the situation as he sees fit.
I think there is a fine line between being physical enough and getting that work done, especially when you have things that need to be worked on. And those things usually are at the line of scrimmage, right? There's a fine line between getting that work done and benefiting your team and then overly exerting your football team, and that's a hard line to play. I'm with you, though, Steven, I don't think that Ben Roethlisberger would step out of turn and say this as a way to influence Mike Tomlin. I think this is probably a conversation they've had in the past before, and I'll just go back to my own career. I remember a time in training camp where we didn't play really well in a preseason game, and Mike Shanahan had called a practice for Sunday, and John Elway said, great, I won't be there. You want to have practice? I'm taking a day off. We get a day off after we play. And then you know what happened? We didn't practice on Sunday. So sometimes those guys are the ones that have to stand up and say, listen, man, for the good of our football team, I've got my finger on the pulse of these guys in the locker room. We need a little bit of a break here. And sometimes it's those guys from a leadership standpoint that are able to do that.
What if that runs up against a philosophy and a stubborn coach? And Tomlin's my favorite coach. I mean, Belichick's the greatest coach ever. Tomlin is my favorite coach, right? He's a lot of people's favorite coach. I love his attitude that, you know, it's always talk about it. First press conference, Steelers football, run the ball, stop the run, right? Be physical and everything. But it reminds me of Philly gym wars in boxing. Philadelphia has legendary gym wars. People go to Philly to watch sparring. But for a while, they weren't producing fighters who lasted very long because they leave it in the gym. And if if you have a coach who feels like, look, there's no other way to get it done on the line of scrimmage. I'm not saying necessarily Tomlin's this way, but if Roethlisberger feels he is being that way, and the coach doesn't want to make changes because he thinks, look, football careers might be a little shorter than some guys want, that can be a problem going forward.
I guess it could be a problem going forward. I just don't, again, this is gut. I don't know. I mean, I'm not there. But my gut would tell me that this is a conversation that they've had in the past before, and this is Ben Roethlisberger just being honest and trying to assess why you have so many injuries. I think a lot of injuries happen, honestly, because I don't think guys practice enough. I mean, I think there's a lot of what goes on right now is we always say it, you don't develop, like, you can't get in shape to play football by any other way than playing football.
That's what Tomlin told me.
Right.
Tomlin
very much like boxing. Like, you can run, you can do burpees, you can jump rope all day long, but there's a difference. Like, I was a state champion high school wrestler. There's a difference between running and working out and then getting on the mat with another dude and grappling for 6 minutes. I mean, that is the toughest sport I have ever participated in, and there's a real difference. So sometimes it's about going out there and playing, and the only way you can get shaped to play is to play.
You know, some people in baseball feel that all the arm injuries and the Tommy John surgeries is because people went to five-man staffs and pitch counts, and guys aren't developing their arm strength as they're coming up. There is that theory.
Right. The other thing that I haven't ignored in all of this, guys, if there is a slight cause for concern, it's the words that Big Ben used when he said, I don't get hit, so it's not about me, but I'm going to speak up for the big guys. That tells me that maybe, just maybe, others have encouraged him to speak. And if that's the case, now you might have an issue.
That's what I said to start. He's taking a bullet for his line.
You might, if they went to you, because that, listen, Tomlin doesn't, I've been around the Steelers. I've been around various NFL teams. I'm telling you, Tomlin is not the kind of guy that you can't go up and talk to. Sure. He's not the kind of guy that you can't do that to. He's easily accessible. So if somebody is telling Big Ben to say that stuff, we got a communication problem somewhere. And that's not something that we're accustomed to hearing about when it comes to Mike Tomlin.
Would that be one dude or a whole bunch of dudes talking about it?
I think sometimes your quarterback, and Ben is totally dialed into his guys. I mean, Ben is, he is. He's dialed into that football team, and he's matured quite a bit in his time as a Pittsburgh Steeler. You can see it. You can see it when guys are having trouble showing up on Wednesday and practicing, all those things. So I look at this more from a leadership standpoint. I don't think it's been circumventing Mike Tomlin's authority. I think it's been just pointing out, hey man, we're a little bit beat up right now, and sometimes you need a break. Sometimes you just, as a football team, and you have a better finger on your pulse of what goes on in that locker room, because let's face it, a lot of times the coaches are never in the locker room. They're upstairs, they're in meeting rooms, and then they're on the practice field. Yep. But you see it in the locker room, you see it in the weight room, you see it in the training room. And Ben would have his finger on the pulse of that team.
And there's no breach in protocol, Mark, where Ben wouldn't go to Tomlin first and say, hey, coach, can I have a word? You know, I'm hearing from a lot of guys. Right. You know, we're banged up. And
but we don't know that didn't happen. Yeah. We don't know that he hasn't had that conversation like, hey, man, we're really beat up right now.
But maybe he didn't hear what he wanted to hear, and now he's telling it to the media.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is, I guarantee you this. Guys respect Ben Roethlisberger. Anytime a player stands up for another player because he's got their back, guys will lay it on the line for that dude. You got to take the lion's share of the blame when things go bad, and you got to deflect 100% of the credit when things go great. And that is, from my standpoint, quarterback 101 leadership.
Yeah.
All right, we got to leave it there. I'm hearing you're staying with us the rest of the show.
Really?
Lovely.
Okay,
Appreciate
super.
it.
Can't
yeah,
wait.
so you can jump in on this next subject. Max's MVP, Andrew Luck, blames himself for all the sacks he's taking. Find out what the guys say about it after the break. Does sound funny saying that, Max.
First Take is presented by Bass Pro Shops. Your adventure starts here. And in part by Bridgestone. Your journey, our passion.
I hopped on a plane. I said I got a priority. I need to be on the table at first take. I don't care where you're from, what language you speak. You know what you get? Kevin Hart.
Talking about he gonna take my job.
Oh, let me tell you how I do it. I'll find time to come here and do what you do better.
I sit in my bed and watch you guys talk about nothing.
What you do is assume that's your problem.
I've never seen somebody that's wrong so much.
We joke, we play around. If I don't talk about you, I don't like you, okay? But I love you.
I need that energy in my life. Don't miss First Take tomorrow. Comedian, actor Kevin Hart, he will be here in studio. It's going to be a
I'm trying to figure out whose job he's going to try to take. 1 minute it's mine and might be yours. Anything's possible with this dude.
He might take mine.
All I know is this: he'll need a high chair. That much I know. He'll need a high chair.
You're such a hater.
He'll need a high chair.
You're so wrong for that.
Just make sure we look out for him.
He is going to moderate a couple of the debates, and I can't wait because I'm going to learn from him. I'm going to get some tips.
Make sure we look out for him. Get him a high chair, maybe some boots.
You're so wrong.
You know what I'm saying? Don't have a basketball any place in the vicinity. He'll hit something wrong.
He's such a hater. Can we get onto this topic? Colts quarterback Andrew Luck has been sacked an NFL high 20 times this season, but he's not blaming his O-line. Luck said yesterday that he thinks he deserves a lot of the blame for all the sacks, saying he can get rid of the ball more quickly to avoid the pass rush. Max, you like these comments from your MVP?
Yes, I love these comments. What did Mark Schlereth just say comes with the quarterback position? In good times, you give everybody else the credit. In bad times, you accept all the blame. That's what Andrew Luck does. Andrew Luck is the one guy in the NFL. It's so hard to isolate value of players, and he's my pick for MVP this year. They're in a weak division, even though they don't have a very good team, obviously. But he's the one guy where if you equalize everything else behind the same line with the same receiver, same running back, the whole thing, same defense, he's the guy I want. He's the guy I believe has the most trade value in the NFL. I don't think there's another player where a team would go, if he could be traded straight up for Andrew Luck, that team would go like, nah, I don't want that guy. Because not only does he have, like, just about Cam Newton level ability, he's fast, he's big, he's strong, he takes shots, he can throw the ball down the field. I like him in the pocket better than Cam, as a matter of fact. But he also does all this stuff just like you want a guy. I mean, like, he's the perfect player. Now, I know he throws interceptions. Even then, I believe that's because he ain't afraid to lose. He's trying to win. He's trying to put his team in that position.
I appreciate the professionalism. I appreciate him taking a hit for the team. But I don't like his comments because this man has suffered enough over the years that he has been in the NFL. Last year, he had a lacerated kidney, for crying out loud, along with a bevy of other injuries. Already, he leads the league in being sacked 20 times this year. Right. We're not even counting the amount of times he's been hit. His first 3 years in the NFL, he was sacked 100 times, hit about 70 to 75 more times, and was getting hit last year before ultimately the injuries took the best of him. This is the franchise. This is a guy that has the potential to be a future Hall of Famer. When I think about Andrew Luck, I'm sitting there saying it's not just about drafting, it's about developing people. Could you get me some help? Could you protect me? Could you get me off suicide watch, for crying out loud? Because I am in danger all the time. Coming to the defense of your offensive lineman is admirable, but at the same time, you shouldn't put out there like things are okay. They are not okay. Andrew Luck has been exposed far too often, and Grigson and his developmental staff are the people I hold primarily responsible.
No, I'm 100% with you. I mean, it's one thing to draft guys, and you drafted 4 offensive linemen, I believe, this particular draft. It's another thing entirely to develop guys. You've got to develop guys, and you've got to teach guys the game, especially coming out of college, because it's so different. So you've got to teach guys the game. You've got to teach them how to be efficient and how to be good. By the way, it's not only Andrew Luck, and they haven't had a 100-yard rusher since 2012, I believe, Vic Ballard, for crying out loud. So it's been forever. And you watch them. I give a lot of props to Andrew Luck for at least saying, hey, man, I'll put it on myself. But the bottom line, those guys in front of him should be embarrassed. I mean, I watched Anthony Costanzo do things where I'm just like, really, that's the guy you decided to pay? And there has been struggles. I mean, there were times where I was like, I'd rather have George Costanza playing left tackle than Anthony Costanzo, because, you know, there are times when you just look at it and you're like, you guys, 1, physically you get whipped. 2, mentally you get whipped because you don't know what you're doing. There's a bunch of those. There's a myriad of different issues going on up front with them right now. And I give him a ton of credit for taking responsibility. But bottom line is you're taking a franchise, one of the great quarterbacks in this league, and you are getting that dude you're getting that guy.
He's wasting away in dog years.
Oh.
You're taking years off of his career. And by the way, let's also take a moment to point out how the Colts are the 30th ranked defense in the NFL.
Sure.
So that's just putting you 2 and 3 for a reason. You were 1 and 3 going into the game against Chicago. You're putting even more pressure on Andrew Luck to come to the rescue, and your running game is ranked 22nd.
So if they win the division, considering all these things, you have T.Y. Hilton, you have some guys, and we brought that up in the past, who can catch the ball, but that's about it other than Andrew Luck. If they win the division, is Andrew Luck the MVP?
No.
Is he your MVP?
No.
Because he's mine.
I told you that before the
I think this year so far, even with all the shots he's taken, he's been one of the handful of best players in the league.
Not his performance, it's the team that he's on.
Right.
You got to be on a better team. They're not going to even consider
And if they
it.
win the division and he passes for 5,000 yards,
it's just not how it works.
It's the AFC South.
Right. Whether it's offensive line, whether it's the staff not getting guys prepared, whether it's the GM for not getting the right players, I guarantee you there are guys doing 5 to 10 in the state pen that did less to get there than what they've done to Andrew Luck. Because that poor guy takes a beating. Anytime you have to miss time because you lacerate a kidney, you injuring internal organs, your guys aren't getting it done at any level.
Shouldn't this do something for them? As everyone knows how terrible they've been. Shouldn't this rally the offensive line? I'd say behind him, but in front of him, when they see the quarterback taking bullets for them?
No, that's the problem, because you got cover. The point is, sometimes it needs you need to be brought to the light. You need to be exposed.
Oh, Luck should have called him out?
Well, I'm not saying he should have particularly, but you could be silent. You don't have to say anything. You could be very conspicuous with your silence.
Right.
Sometimes you should know that better than most. You could be there and sit up there and look at somebody and go like this.
Better to be silent or to take the bullet?
Sometimes.
It's, you know what Andrew Luck did is the right thing. Sometimes the guys will rally. That's great. But if you don't have the requisite talent and you don't have the understanding, I don't care how much you rally, you ain't getting anything done. And that's where they are right now as a franchise.
Mark, real quick before we got about a minute. Your Broncos. Tough one. Tough one against the Falcons. Are they going to redeem themselves tonight at Qualcomm Stadium?
Yeah, you know what? From a defensive standpoint, they got exposed in man coverage in their linebacking core. And so it's an embarrassing loss.
And you can run on
it. Yeah, it's an embarrassing loss. I would fully expect to see this defense, this proud defense, this defense that is as good as anybody over the last 2 years, to stand up and nip this thing in the bud. They've missed some guys. There's no question.
A little birdie closely connected to Denver once told me, those folks up there are a tad bit sensitive. You say something about their defense, they get riled up. They get very, very sensitive.
Yes.
Well, they needed to be called out after the way Atlanta handled them last week. We'll see what happens.
This is a sneaky, tough game, a really good game, I think, tonight.
Yeah. I'm picking the
Broncos. The Chargers got a lead late in every game they played in, and they're at home.
You know,
they'll find a way to lose it. That's
me?
what the Chargers do.
Little birdie told me tomorrow's Stephen A's birthday, and Kevin Hart will be here. It's gonna be
Kevin Hart is coming on my birthday. Kevin Hart's coming to say happy birthday to me.